Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Welcome back to another live show. We're going to be previewing the Warsaw game today, Legia Warsaw at home in the Conference League. For those of you who didn't catch the preview last night with myself, Kev, and Lewis, we were talking about our thoughts going into the game. I predicted starting 11, as well as the current ongoing situation in the race for Champions League football. Obviously, it's a totally different animal that Chelsea are facing now compared to what Arsenal had last night, being Real Madrid going through to the Champions League semi-finals. We are in a very, very different scenario. And we have to accept that, but at the same time, we shouldn't accept that, if you know what I mean. So support the team as much as you can and see if we can drag out the result. I think we can quite easily. Look, it's an easy deficit to look at. 3-0 in the first leg. And we're not playing Madrid in the second leg. We're playing Warsaw. So, and it's a home game. We have no reason to be concerned. So, listen, obviously I will touch on the Warsaw game. I'm going to speak about the Conference League as a whole. I don't think we need to speak too much about the game itself, because if you think that we're not going to go through, I don't really understand that logic. I think that it seems like it's set in stone. Chelsea will be going through. Happy days. Yeah, that's the reality, isn't it? If anyone thinks Warsaw's coming back, please let me know. And let me know why you think that is the case. I know that we've not been playing great football, but surely we'll be fine. Even if it was a 1-0 lead, I'd still think we'd be fine, to be honest. I had a Thai massage 2 hours ago. A deep tissue Thai massage. It was very strange. At the end of the massage, the lady, I don't know what she had in her hand, but she kept hitting me. And then she was hitting me on the back of the head. So I feel, they've woken me up a little bit after that one. I was expecting it to be more painful than it was. Maybe the pain is safer today at 8 o'clock. No happy ending, I'm afraid. Sorry to disappoint, guys. Maybe next time, but not this one. No happy ending. No happy ending. Just a regular massage. Big up to you, Daniel. I hope you're doing well. Hello from Amsterdam, KR22. Good to see you on here, mate. Liam, big up to you, my friend. Daniel says, I've had enough of being a banter club playing on Thursday. I want to play on Tuesday and Wednesday. I want to be in the Champions League. I'm there. Neil, I completely agree with you. We need to heavily rotate. We need a lot of the young players in there. Big up to you as well, Jordan. It was certainly different. Let's just put it like that. I was expecting a lot of pain because it was deep tissue, but it wasn't actually that painful. So if any of you ever have like problems with your back or anything, because that's why I went there, my back's killing me. It wasn't as painful as I expected. So I was almost disappointed, but happy at the same time. I was happy at the time because I was like, oh, this is not actually that bad. But then I've walked out of it thinking maybe I need a little bit more pain to make me feel better tomorrow, but we'll see. How far do I live from Stamford Bridge? Well, I live about an hour away from Fulham if you drive. That's with no traffic. On the train, I live near Reading, so just get the Elizabeth line, get to Paddington, and then from Paddington go directly to Fulham Broadway, so go through Earls Court. And then, all in all, it's probably a little bit longer on the train. I'd say I'd leave an hour and a half. So hour and a half is probably like a fair amount of time. If I left less than an hour and a half to go before kickoff, then I would be rushing and I'd probably be late for kickoff. So hour and a half is like a good time period for me to leave and then get to Stamford Bridge as well. Sean says Robert Sanchez will be our number 1 next season. I'm not sure where you're getting that from, Sean. No. Where have you dissected that? Because Robert Sanchez he doesn't really have a foot to stand on. he's not got anything to bring to this team in terms of goalkeeping ability, shot stopping, reliable at the back with his feet. His long ball distribution's poor. Makes a lot of mistakes. He's old. He doesn't have anything going for him in Chelsea's sense. When I say old, anything over 25 is considered old. I mean, 10 years ago, you'd say if they're over 30, but now if they're over 25, you might as well get a retirement home ready for him at Chelsea because you've got Toss in the Unk and not many other players like that, to be fair. Funny. What made me choose to support Chelsea? My dad. It wasn't really a choice. I remember watching Chelsea Man United years ago when I was a kid in 2007, I think it was. And basically we were getting pummeled by United. And I think it was at Old Trafford. And I was like, yeah, cool. I want to support Man United. And my dad was like, no, this is not happening. And he started taking me to games, even if I wasn't properly watching. My first game, I think it was Fulham at home in the Premier League, if I'm not wrong. Although I don't really remember it, but I think it was Fulham. I can't remember the year. I think it's around sort of 2007, 2008. And then one of my second matches, if not my first, it's all around the same sort of time. I went to the FA Cup final when we beat Portsmouth, but that couldn't have been my first because that was a couple of years after, wasn't it? That was 2010. 2010. That was when Drogba scored that amazing free kick against Portsmouth. So yeah, I was forced into becoming a Chelsea fan. Just like if you're a dad and you've got kids, I absolutely would say force your kids to support the same football team as you. That creates a massive divide within the household. It's like if let's just say that there's a family, you've got a mom, a dad, and you've got an older child. All right, he's 18 or 19. Legally, he can vote. Mum supports Labour, dad's a Conservative, and the son voted Reform. That is a fucking divide. And in football terms, if my son was to support Arsenal or Tottenham, that divide would be there. That would not be a fun household to live in on a match day. I'm not having it. I'm not buying him any shirts. I'm not taking to any games. You think I could get away going to Tottenham or Arsenal? No way. I guess I'm blessed in that sense. I've got a good excuse not to go because of my strong affiliation with Chelsea. So that's why I support Chelsea, because of my dad. My mum's side of the family are Sunderland, although my mum didn't even know that. That's how passionate she is about the club. So she always told me that it was Newcastle, and it wasn't Newcastle, because then when I asked my grandma, she said, no, it's definitely not Newcastle, it's Sunderland. And I've got all these old Newcastle shirts in different sizes with, was it Wonga 365? Mr. Wonga? What's the name of that advert? Mr. Wonga, lend me some dosh. Bum, 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 bum. What's that one? You know, the front of that was when Alan Pardrew was manager of Newcastle back in the day. So I've got all the Newcastle shirts from when I was younger as well. My mum bought me a couple of them. She had no idea that she was literally saying the wrong team. Sunderland the whole time. Don't even have a single Sunderland shirt. And actually, I would say that I have a soft spot for Sunderland because I know now that it's my mum's side of the family, but I haven't known that for a long time. I've probably known it for about four years now. So I went many years thinking that actually it was Newcastle, it was my second team, and Sunderland, that's my second team. And then my local team's Reading. So I got a soft spot for Reading as well, but Reading are in a bit of a pickle because they have an even worse owner than Chelsea. I know, hard to come by. Would I like Don Carlo to come back and replace Enzo? To be honest with you, Neil, I just don't think it's the right fit. I don't think he'd take the job. I don't think that there's any alignment between what Bowley and Clearlake are doing and what Carlo Ancelotti wants to achieve in his final years of management. Can you imagine going from Real Madrid to this unambitious Chelsea project that we're seeing right now. I mean, we talk about ambition all the time, but we don't see it. And that's the thing. We hear the words, but we don't see it on the pitch. We don't see it in the transfer market. We don't really understand the direction. So it's very hard to, to persuade someone with those kind of credentials managing Real Madrid to take the Chelsea job. It's just a massive step in a different direction. So how that would work, I don't know. I don't think it will. I could see Ancelotti realistically taking an international job. He's, as I said, he's getting older. It's just a more pleasant experience, and it's magical as well, especially if he gets the Brazil job. I think they're holding out for him. So I think Ancelotti and Brazil, that would be something that I definitely want to see. 100%. Your dad supports Millwall, but I'm glad I don't because they're awful rep. Fair enough. Woodshadow says, my concern with winning the Conference League is that it will give the board ammunition to praise Maresca. We will have the same situation as Man U with Ten Hag. But, it's even still, they don't have a leg to stand on, because I would argue it's harder not to win the Conference League than to win the Conference League with the squad that we have. So everyone's saying, Maresca deserves credit if we win the competition. Like, we are now in a position where roughly 50%, like I'm looking at polls, so the online fan community, 50% of them don't trust the manager. They don't like this manager. Other 50% think he needs a little bit more time. Then you look at the match-going fans, I'd say 90% don't trust Maresca. Maybe 10% do. The large majority of match-going fans don't like watching this football or the manager. Winning the Carabao Cup is harder than winning the Conference League. Winning the FA Cup is harder than winning the Conference League. That's the way I see it. So it doesn't carry the same weight. You don't have to beat opponents like Man City in the final and Newcastle in the final. You have harder opponents. They are harder opponents than, Fiorentina or Real Betis. Although I would say that from what I've heard about Real Betis, and I haven't watched many games, but I've seen a couple of highlights, they do seem to be playing really good stuff, and they're turning players, who maybe weren't doing as well at their previous clubs, Isco and Anthony, into players that are performing to an exceptional standard. So we should be worried in that regard. Alex, on our way to games, where do you guys normally head after the game for interviewing? Kian's asking, mate, he loves you guys. We always do our interviews by Konakai, which is a pub right outside Stamford Bridge. You can't miss it. So Konakai, Kona space Kai, Konakai. Yes, I did pay. Yes, I did pay. It was not handed over for free. If only it was handed over for free. That's why I laugh when people say I do this for money. I'm like, what? Literally spent money to get involved. What are you talking about? Neil says, my dad was Man United and I converted him to a blue. We went to midweek games in the old West Stand. How do you convert? He couldn't have been a very strong United fan. How does that work, Neil? How long was he a Man United fan before you converted him as well? Like, was he not even a massive football fan? Because I don't see how you can convert someone. Like, I have this problem with little kids. Obviously, I'm a coach, so I don't coach football. I coach tennis. And I say, bloody hell. I don't say that, but I say, what are you wearing a Man City shirt for? Of course they want to wear the Man City shirt because they're winning. And then, if Arsenal win a title, they'll probably switch over to Arsenal. And that's how kids are these days. But adults, I'm not sure how you could convert them. Big up to you, Stephen. Another Stu's first thing coming? Probably. But it will be interesting to see the kids getting a run out. I am intrigued to see the heavy rotation. So at least when we look at the players, we're going to see players that we don't normally watch. And I think that is interesting. And that can keep it fun. If we don't rotate heavily, then I will be bored out of my mind because we know exactly what we're going to see. Uncle's a Fulham fan, but you chose to support Chelsea. So a bit of glory hunting, but no glory hunting right now. That's very true. If we don't make the Champions League, then I want all the Clear Lake super soldiers to continue saying the owners are doing a great job. Big up to you, Star Slayer. No need for glory tonight. Play boring, play safe. Well, truth be told, Rory, we're going to get through. So I don't see us going for any glory in that sense. I think you're right. The ownership is always more important than the management. I could not agree with you more in that respect. Also, because, and Lewis said this to me yesterday, he does make a good point. Even if your manager's not good enough, if he's backed with better players, then we would play better football. We'd have better conversions. We'd probably keep more clean sheets. We'd have a better goalkeeper. Although I think that Maresca had a say in sending Petrovic to Strasbourg. I'm 100% certain that he had a say in that. People say, did he have the final say? No, but I'm sure they said, do you want Petrovic, Sanchez, or Jorgensen to be your number one? And I think he said, I don't need Petrovic. I'm happy with Sanchez and Jorgensen. And that is a real problem for me in terms of not just talent identification from the recruitment standpoint, but also from the manager, because picking a goalkeeper is really basic. It's not a difficult thing to do to pick a good keeper. But it seems like we've really struggled with that over the last few years. But then when we finally found a good keeper, who I'm a huge fan of, I think that Petrovic can develop into a world-class keeper. I think he's top. I'm not putting him up there with Alisson and Edison right now, but I'm certainly saying you can get there 100%. And I don't even think he's that far away, to be totally honest with you. And I'm talking from a goalkeeping perspective. I'm not necessarily singling out distribution, although if you look at his statistics, there was an article that came out about Petrovic's distribution and how it's one of the best in Europe. He's got one of the best what's the word? He's one of the most accurate passers in goal in Europe. And that's doing a lot of passes, but a lot of risky passes and playing a very risky style of play. Again, Zach, Inzaghi, why would he want to come to Chelsea? He's got a good project in Italy. Why? People seem to think that we are Abramovich's Chelsea. It's just not the case anymore. And I'm not saying that because I'm happy with it. I'm saying that because that is the reality. Neil says we need a second protest. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the chat. I absolutely agree with that, Neil. If any protest catches any sort of momentum, you have to do it 7, 8, 9, 10 times, really, before it gets taken seriously. And we're seeing that with the Glazer protests at United. Oh, you were talking about away games. Generally, we just try and do it outside the away section if we can, as long as we can get away with it. So we don't have a particular spot because obviously every away game is different. But we try and do all of our interviews outside the away section. I would be happy to have Sophie on, but I doubt Sophie would want to get involved, to be honest with you, Stephen. I don't think she's really doing much of the Chelsea content these days. Right. Let's dive into some of the latest news that we are seeing at the moment surrounding Chelsea. There is some interesting stuff, to say the least, and there's some very strange news as well. I want to know as well that I saw a tweet earlier saying, someone said, I genuinely hate the Conference League. I have no enthusiasm or care to watch the game. Full focus on the league. Do you all feel the same, or do you feel a sense of excitement that, we can still pick up a trophy? Are you in that camp? Or are you sort of in the middle? I'd say that I'm in the middle. I'm still, I still want to watch Chelsea, but I totally agree when people say that the Conference League's not an interesting competition, because watching the Champions League, and I have been watching it recently, you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's such a great thing, because the standard's so high and the stakes are so high financially, in terms of obviously the clubs having certain aspirations. And you just don't really have that same sort of enthusiasm or intensity in the Conference League. It's so much slower than, what we're seeing at the moment. There is some transfer news that's come out. This is not brand new, but I'm sure some of you may have seen this. Chelsea have no plans to sell Moises Caicedo despite Saudi interest. Chelsea value Caicedo significantly higher than 150 million, which is what we originally paid for him. So the question I have is, what do we value him at? What is the actual value of Caicedo? And what do you think this ownership, because I think they're absolutely willing to listen to all offers for all players. What do you think they're willing to listen to if an offer was to come in for a player like Moises Caicedo? We spent 115 million. So what are the profit margins here? Are we looking to, are we looking to make 15%? 50%? Are we looking to double our money? What is the catch here? Are we looking, like, how much profit is enough profit for these guys to just look at the footballing side of things and basically turn a blind eye to the fact that Caicedo is by far our best midfielder, better than Fernandes, better than Lavia as well, because not only does he stay fit all the time, but he's got so many attributes that you just can't take your eyes off. And he is Kante-esque with a lot of other qualities that Kante never had. Now, I can't compare Caicedo's defensive work to Kante. I don't think he's reached that high. I think the 2 years that Kante was playing under Antonio Conte, that's the best football I've ever seen Kante play. But I think Tuchel actually did get a lot out of N'Golo as well, so I'll give him that. But he did have a slightly quieter spell under Sarri and Lampard. But when we saw Kante at his peak, he was the ultimate sort of ball-winning midfielder, able to cover so much ground. And it's just like having an extra player on the pitch. And you do feel that way to an extent with Caicedo. The one thing that he has that Kante didn't really have was the really, really good technical ability. And I think Kante's technical ability, again, it was decent, but I think Caicedo was a level above in that respect. His passing range is better. Although he probably scores a similar amount of goals to what Kante did, maybe even less. I think he's probably got a better shot on him as well. And I think all round he's a more all round midfielder than what we saw from N'Golo. I mean, even the fact that we're having this conversation is a testament to Caicedo as well. And Al Nassr are the Saudi club that are interested. For those of you who are wondering, there has to be some serious concrete interest for them to even be considering a player above the 115 million that we paid for him. And if there is one league where you can genuinely see them spending a extortionate amount of money to bring the players that they want, it is the Saudis. And Al Nassr, they did it with Mitoma. I think they offered, 60 million or something. Brighton rejected the offer. They went straight up to 90 or something crazy. So, these are guys that are willing to negotiate. They do have a cap, obviously, but their cap is significantly higher than what we can offer in European leagues because of UEFA. You've got FFP, and then with the Premier League, you've got PSR as well. So they don't have any of those restrictions in Saudi. I presume you're talking about the Conference League being the Mickey Mouse Cup. Guy Scanner and Trip.com tonight, waiting for. Yeah, that's fair enough. I presume you're waiting for the Betis result as well. What is the score in Betis? I think they're winning, aren't they? Going into the second leg. Big up to you, Bobby. Big up, Alex. He says it's frustrating the way Lewis scapegoats toothless sporting directors. We can't afford more players after spending 1.5 billion. How about getting a competent manager to work with what we have? This is what I've said as well, Bobby, is you're absolutely right if you think that changing the manager can make a difference if you're able to fully back him financially, and time is another bonus. But a financial backing in the transfer window is obviously huge for any manager. And Chelsea pretty much always have done that, at least in this century. But under Bowley and Clearlake, it's not been about building for the manager. It's about building for the club. It's about building for their structure and their priorities and their plans. And their priorities aren't to do with a style of play. It's to do with a style of investing. And you only invest so that you can take money back at a profit. Profit FC. Accounting FC. Balance the books FC. That is where Chelsea are at the moment. Again, another comment from Bobby. The sporting directors are nothing more than glorified scouts. They make no decisions. That's why there are two of them. Focusing on them is an excuse to ignore the real problem, which is the ownership. But then the question is this, Bobby. Even though the ownership are a problem in themselves, we're talking about the fact that really the sporting directors don't have that much flexibility to be able to go out and sign the type of players that Chelsea really want and really need. They are still in a position where they have a large budget and they can sign good young players. Do you think that that's still an area that they should be criticized for? Because although they've been given a set of instructions, the question is, have they carried out those instructions well? I mean, we obviously think the answer is no, but from a Clearlake and a Todd Bowley perspective, that could be a very different conversation. They could be very, very happy with what the sporting directors are doing at the moment and building this young team and building up Strasbourg. I mean, Strasbourg has been nothing short of a success, okay, under Blueco. We can't deny that they have transformed the way that club is being run. And they're actually getting results as well and bringing Strasbourg to heights that I don't think they've ever been to. But they are doing the polar opposite with Chelsea. They are dragging us down to a level that we have never imagined could ever happen, considering the heritage of this football club, considering what Roman did, even what Ken Bates did. Like, we were still a top team under Ken Bates a lot of the time. People seem to think that as soon as we had money, we became successful. We won trophies before Abramovich, and we were in Europe before Abramovich. So the fact that we're in a situation now where Conference League is a priority for us, I think that's saying an awful lot about Chelsea's mentality. And that's going to significantly affect the way we're able to do business in the summer as well, because players are not going to want to come to Chelsea for a footballing project. I don't think we have the financial pull to win over players. So then the question is, like, what are you offering at Chelsea that other clubs can't offer? And the answer is that all clubs can offer what Chelsea are offering at the moment. All clubs within sort of the top 6, top 7, top 8 range. Your Newcastles can offer the same thing. Obviously, Forest, Arsenal, Liverpool, they're probably going to offer Champions League football. And then City, you've got the Pep Guardiola factor. I think Emery's got massive pull at Aston Villa. He's a great manager. They're also a bigger club than people give them credit for. So what is it that Chelsea bring to the table now that other clubs can't compete with? We used to have all of it. We used to have money and a great footballing project. You would win trophies if you come to Chelsea. Can you say the same thing now? Absolutely not. Although it is going to be funny when Arsenal get knocked out of the Champions League. I do think they will get knocked out. And we still manage to hopefully pick up a trophy. And even when they are playing much better football than we are, we have something to show for it, and they have absolutely nothing. So that is quite funny. 250 million, JC said he'd accept for Caicedo. Fair enough. He-Ho says we can't get a competent manager because the sporting directors are incompetent themselves. That's very true. So then the answer is you've got to get rid of all of them. Greetings, Alchemist from Greece. No, I don't want Thomas Frank, guys. Let me just say that there is such thing as emotion, and I was a little bit emotional after the Brentford game. But I do stand by what I was saying in terms of the fact that Thomas Frank has a better CV than Maresca. That was absolutely true. You look at what he's achieved in the game and what Maresca's achieved in the game as a manager, not as an assistant manager, as a manager. And Thomas Frank, you have more to go off. You have more to say that he is a better manager. So I stand by that. But no, that doesn't mean I want Thomas Frank. Yeah, I mean, with Chelsea Women's, that's been a huge success, but they've run it differently. It's not the same. They've kept a lot of the foundations. They wanted to keep Emma Hayes involved. If they'd have done that with Tuchel, I think there would have been, wouldn't have been many problems, to be quite frank. But yes, I will be trying to watch the Chelsea Women's team during this end of the season because, quite frankly, the men's team are just, they're hardly inspiring confidence at the moment. Joe says, Bobby, you're making it seem that the sporting directors are insulating the owners from the blame. We attack the owners every day. Both parties are incompetent. Let's not dance around this. Well, I think we all agree that they're all incompetent. I don't think there's any disagreement there. I think you and Bobby actually agree. So there's no real need to argue. You actually are saying a similar thing. The owners are rubbish and the sporting directors are rubbish. But also the sporting directors could be better if they were given more freedom to spend money properly as opposed to just investing. We're not talking about buying football players. We're talking about buying players as if they're an asset, like a stock. Why do you buy a stock when it's low? Because you are hoping it will go up in value. And then you sell your stock and you make your profits. And that, I believe, is the strategy at Chelsea in terms of bringing in players. Prem Talk says, bro, my problem with you is we're at the final stretch and we should be focusing on supporting the team instead of voicing your agenda on the coach and the ownership. Do it when the season ends. No, you have a very fair point. My thing is this. I just don't believe it's going to happen. So, I mean, I don't really know what I'm supposed to say if I don't believe it's going to happen. I can't say I do believe it will happen because that's a lie. And I don't really have much else to talk about otherwise. So that's just my opinion. It's my opinion. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't believe me. That's your right. But the more things I think about, the more reasons I would argue that this manager is not capable of leading this team forward. Now, again, if Abramovich was here and Maresca was in the same boat, then maybe we would have a different discussion because he might have Osherman up front. He might have Petrovic in goal. We may have competent centre-backs and better wingers. And that would obviously reflect better on the manager because he'd have better players. But we don't. And, the whole structure affects the manager and it affects the players as well, obviously. So that's why I can't sit here and say that I trust someone when I don't. I think that's just disingenuous. In my opinion, we should look at CV before appointment. Once the appointment has been made and there's a sample side, it boils down to how the manager has performed. Fair enough. So then, in your opinion, I'm guessing that you think Maresca's performed well enough, and that's totally fair. Like, there's an argument for it, guys. There is an argument. I just don't believe the argument. I believe the argument is stronger that this manager is not competent. And, the truth is that he could still have success at Chelsea. But I don't believe that he is the best manager for Chelsea. And that's just my opinion. These sporting directors, I'm not sure they have purchased world-class players in their career. They kind of penny pick a lot of times. Again, but I believe that part of the reason for that is because of the instructions that they are getting from the ownership. I think I think that's part of the reason as well. Bobby says, I don't think the sporting directors have that much discretion. They were hired from clubs that are good at flipping players for profit, not winning things. I think they're following Egbali's instructions. I agree with that. Absolutely. For people to sit here and say that the sporting directors, they're not carrying this big wallet of cash, right? They are essentially doing what the ownership have asked them to do. Make no mistake that if the ownership wanted to get Victor Osimhen at all costs, we would have Victor Osimhen at all costs. We managed to do it with Enzo Fernandez. We spent an awful lot of money on Mudryk. We flied all the way over to Ukraine to negotiate with his agent or the owner or whatever it was. Like we have seen in the past, when Chelsea want to get these deals done, they get the deal done. So the clear and obvious assessment of that is that we just didn't really want Osimhen enough in order to get it over the line. And what was more important than bringing in a top striker was maintaining our wage structure. And that's all it is. So you can agree with it you can disagree with it, but that's where we are at the moment. Now, we're going to do our predicted lineup going into this game as well. So let me know in the chat who you think should be starting in this match. I did one of these with Lewis and Kev. I'll do a fresh one. I'll do one based on what I would like to happen, not what Maresca actually will do, because I want to try and lighten up the mood. And I think that, to be quite honest with you, I think it would help the mood of Stamford Bridge seeing a lot of the kids on the field. I think they'd have more patience for it. When you see senior players doing things that it seems passive and negative, you never get a good reaction from it. But if it is a younger kid, then people will have more patience. In goal, I think the obvious answer is Jorgensen. Sanchez is not going to be starting for this game. Who are we going to have at left back, guys? We don't have many options. Cucurella will obviously be saved for the Fulham game on Sunday. And we don't have Vega anymore. He's obviously not at Chelsea. He's gone on loan to Juventus. He's injured at the moment, I think. So very limited with left back. So I think Gusto would be the option that makes sense. It's a rotation option. He needs minutes. He'll get minutes. And he has played as a left back before. Personally, I don't like it, but I've seen him do it. Centre back, what are we saying in the middle, guys? Personally, I think Badiashile makes sense. Again, a player who's not really featured recently. And you don't really need to trust him, because even if we concede 2 goals, we'll probably still go through. And I would see, if we're conceding 2 goals, I think we'd probably score 1 past Warsaw. We'd have to be seriously poor. Like, I am expecting goals from Chelsea. I'm not. If we draw this game 0-0 or lose, then that is a serious concern. Because you're playing this type of football where you want to have the ball and control the game. Surely you want to do something when you have the ball as well, though. You can't just keep the ball for the sake of keeping it just to waste time because you have a 3-0 lead on aggregate. So I would like to see us play a little bit more aggressive on the ball. On the other side, honestly, I think Chalobah is probably the best option. I don't think Chalobah's been as good as I thought he would be when he come. Like, he's had some good games. I would say he's been very mixed, Trevor Chalobah. You know, there's been some games where I've seen him and I thought, you've been absolutely superb. Like, I love this guy. Everybody knows last season I was a huge fan of Trevor Chalobah. Never wanted him to go. Always thought he was capable of starting for Chelsea. I still think he's capable of being a squad player, to be quite frank, but I don't believe, based on what I've seen this season, he's a starter. I just think we've seen too many mistakes, and I think that, you know, ultimately you need to be able to rely on your centre backs, and you need to be able to look at the more experienced players and see why they're experienced, and that they are experienced, and they have to stand out. And I don't think that Chalobah has stood out as much as I expected. You know, this is a guy who's won trophies with Chelsea. He's one of the few players who's actually won things at this club under the Abramovich regime. He was with us for the Super Cup. I'm sure he played in the final. He performed exceptionally well with Tuchel when playing in the back three. And, you know, he proved his worth under that manager, only to be treated like absolute dross by this ownership, forcing him out of the club and shipping him off to Crystal Palace, only to call him back in January. Can you imagine? After the way he was treated, I would have never come back. I would have told Chelsea to stick it up them. Stick it up your ass. Fuck no. But he had enough respect and love for the club that he decided to come back. And although he's not been one of the standout performers, he's helped in certain games. And I'll always have a lot of respect for Chalobah. And I wish him all the best, because he's not going to be at the club next season. Right back, I want to see Achimpong. This man played like an absolute machine against Warsaw in the first leg, to settle so quickly into that sort of atmosphere. And it was an amazing atmosphere. The Polish fans They did not stop chanting for 1 second. That was some of the best home support I've seen. I knew the Polish were good, but I didn't know they were that good. And the little tifo that we saw before the game, they had the sword and the lion, no fear, or we fear no one, something like that. I think Achimpong really proved himself. And Maresca then proceeds to say how much he loves Josh Achimpong and drops him for the next game. Well, isn't that great? I mean, I don't understand it at all. He proceeds to play Chalobah as a right back when you just had a masterclass from Josh Achimpong. Do not tell me that he's going to get injured if he plays 2 games in a row. What a load of waffle. That was poor from Maresca. And a lot of people didn't like Maresca for the reason that he chose Chalobah. For me, it's many more things than that. But Josh Achimpong on the right, Chalobah, Badiashile, Gusto. It's not an experienced backline. It's not a reliable backline. Jorgensen as well, not really played many games, but hasn't been tested an awful lot. When he has been tested in the Conference League, I think he's performed well. It was the Premier League where things sort of slipped up, but I would still play Jorgensen as a Premier League starting keeper. I think the only positive of having Jorgensen as our cup keeper is that he starts in the final, and Sanchez can't fuck it up for us. So maybe there's that. Dewsbury Hall in the midfield. And I want to see who do we want to see Dewsbury Hall alongside? What are our options here? Because we're not going to see Enzo. We're not going to see Caicedo. Lavia is back in training. I doubt he'll be starting for this game. Maybe we see a little substitute cameo appearance for 5-10 minutes. Could be the case against Fulham. So what are we thinking with Lavia? Sorry, what are we thinking in the midfield? Who else have we got? Let me know. Let me know who you want to see in there, guys. I mean, some people said to me we might play Reece James in there again, but I said, play the guy as a right back in the Premier League. Play him as his proper position. On the Chelsea website, if you look at Reece James, look what it says. Defender, wing back. He's not a midfielder, Enzo. He's a wing back. Please play him in his natural position. So I'm not putting James in the midfield. I think that Amugu, this would be a perfect game for him. Honestly, we haven't seen him start a game for us. And I'd like to see him just get a full 90, to be quite frank. The guy clearly doesn't get many minutes in the squad. That's fair. We're saving him for Strasbourg. But, yeah. Amugu for me. That will be an interesting partnership in there. Dewsbury Hall, you know what you're going to get from Dewsbury Hall. That Conference League is his level. So I expect him to just operate at a decent enough standard, keep us ticking, not expecting anything special from him. On the left side, Tyreek George, who I have become more and more impressed with as I've watched him develop and grow as a player. I've seen Tyreek George consistently be direct. And this is something that we've criticized with, a lot of our wingers. We talk about Sancho, we talk about Neto being one-dimensional, just spamming crosses in the box when there's nobody in the box to actually meet the balls. With George, you just have that energy. And again, I think if we have a solid performance from George, and this is one thing I will give Maresca credit for, is he has been quite good at integrating younger players. I think the Conference League makes that very easy, but I think it's worked well in terms of bringing Tyreek George into the fold. We've seen Josh Achimpong get involved. Those are 2 players that I'm a big fan of. Whether they stay at Chelsea is one thing, but, it's nice to see Cobham boys coming through the club. I think that there's a good chance they both get sold for pure profit. That would not surprise me whatsoever. Who are we playing on the other side, guys? So we've got a very young squad as it stands. You know, we've got 3 very young players with Achimpong, Mugu, and Tyreek George. You've got slightly more experienced options with Chalobah, Badiashile, Gusto, and Dewsbury Hall, but sort of second string players that aren't necessarily playing week in, week out in the Prem. And then you've got your cup keeper. I think that one thing I'd like to see as well, I know a lot of people that have lost faith in Nkunku, but I'd like to see him just play in his natural position. It's like, is there anything wrong with just playing him as a 10? Just see what he does. People said he's lost interest. He looks like he's lost interest. I'm with you there. That's the one regret that I have, is not playing Palmer on the right. So I would have just liked to have seen Nkunku as a 10 consistently and Palmer on the right consistently. And then you could have rotated João Felix with Nkunku. And you could have constantly played Palmer as a right-sided forward. And you could have rotated Madueke in there. You could have occasionally stuck other players if you were resting Palmer. That left side, you've got Neto, you've got Sancho, you've got George, you've got options. That's like one of the biggest regrets I have this season, is our management or mismanagement of Nkunku and João Felix. I think we mismanaged both players. But we will never know, because I think Nkunku's gone. João Felix, probably maybe a loan just to get some sort of money. We'll probably end up we'll continue to loan João Felix until we can get rid of the player. Nkunku will certainly have suitors, though. On the right wing, who are we saying, guys? Who do you want on the right-hand side? Me personally? What are we thinking? Madueke, I don't want him to start this game because I want him against Fulham. Madueke is the one player right now I think, okay, you're a little bit more informed than what I've seen from some of these other guys. Potentially either Sancho or Neto for me. So I will let you help me choose. Let me know in the chat if you think we start Pedro Neto. And let me know if you think we should have Jadon Sancho. Chukwuemeka as well. Another good player I'm a big fan of. Bobby says, I wouldn't play any Premier League first team players. We need to platform the players for the garbage sale this summer. Yes, that's fair. I'm with you there. Yeah, I agree. I do think Nkunku was undermined. Look, that doesn't mean that Nkunku shouldn't have done better. I think he could have still done better, but I do think that the way he was managed was a disgrace. I honestly think that it was so poor. Like, let's forget systematic. Let's forget tactics. Let's just talk about starts as well and minutes, like in the Premier League. That for me is a bit insulting for a player of Nkunku's level to never ever get a shout. I just think if you had more flexibility as a manager, then you could do it. Maresca's even admitted it to himself. He said, I am not going to play another way. I'm not capable of playing another way. And that doesn't fill me with confidence, considering there's different moments in different games where you have to change the way you play because the opponent literally does that. So you have to change your tactics to counteract what they're doing. And we have a manager that's basically saying he can't do that. He can't change anything. Yeah, he'll make tweaks, but he won't change the way we play. Everyone knows what Chelsea are going to do. He's played so consistently and in game, he's naturally drifted into that 10 stage. When he plays as a 9, he's playing in 10, he's still shot. I don't really agree with that, because if he had a striker up there to occupy the other defenders, then he would have more space to operate in as a 10, and he wouldn't have his back to the defenders all the time. I think Nkunku's a player that wants to be facing the goal. He wants to get into positions, find the spaces, and then get into positions where he can shoot. Like we whip in all these fucking balls, and Nkunku actually can head the ball. That's one thing he brings to the table. We say there's nobody to cross the ball to. He's actually one of the players that I think has the ability to head in goals. But look, that ship has sailed. I'm not going to sit here and defend Nkunku. I just look. I think the player could have done a lot better. I think the manager could have done a lot better, and I think the club could have done a lot better. I think all three of them have a part to blame for the situation we're in. Jaden on the left. Do I think Palmer should start? Absolutely not. Right. Well, I'm going to go with, honestly, I'm going to go with Pedro Neto. Because, yeah, he's if he's going to be whipping crosses in against Fulham, I just don't see the point of starting him. Maybe off the bench, you can bring some energy onto the pitch, but I'd rather play Sancho on the right against Fulham and then have Tyreek George starting again. Sorry, ignore that. I'd rather have Tyreek George on the left and Madueke on the right against Fulham. Probably just drop Sancho. Maybe bring him on for a little cameo bench appearance. Up top, Mweka. I want to see the guy get some minutes. This is what I'm talking about. So I can get a little bit excited seeing some of these young players coming in. And I don't really know what I'm going to get from them. But I feel like I get more out of them in terms of piquing my interest than I would just playing the first team. This is a very chilled out preview. We know we're going to win. How are we going to win? I ask you this in the comments now. What's your score predictions going into the game later on? Do you see a 1-0 Chelsea win, a 2-0 Chelsea win, 3, 4, 5? Been a bit ambitious there. Do you see a clean sheet? Do you think that Legia Warsaw will get a goal and rock the fans in the away section, maybe even put us under some pressure, get a 2-0 win? Do you think that they win the game, but we still score? Do you see a draw, a 0-0? I don't see a draw. Even with how we play, I don't see a draw. I think realistically, I see maybe a 2-1 win for Chelsea. I think Warsaw could probably get something out of this game. They were so poor in the first game. I think they'll probably end up being better than they were. That's the way I see it. But who knows? They'll still be massively up for the game. Their manager has a huge amount of admiration for Chelsea. He said how excited and how privileged he feels to play against us. So I think he's going to try and pass that mentality along to his players and go from there. I should listen to the press conference. Is there a new one? Which press conference are we talking about, guys? I mean, we can quickly listen to what Maresca had to say, sure. Let's... that was a 25-minute press conference. My God. I think we need that long. Yeah, go on then. We'll quickly listen to it.
Do you find the balance between playing in a game that you're 3-0 up in the first leg, weighing that up against the really important Fulham League game on Sunday?
No, we try to prioritize always the next match. The next match is tomorrow night. That for us is an important game because can give us the opportunity to reach a semi-final in a European competition. So that is the first one, and then hopefully we can reach the semi-final and focus on Sunday game.
Has the Ipswich result made it slightly more difficult to kind of focus more on the next game? Do you have no choice but to think of Fulham, and especially the way that the other teams in and around the Champions League places are picking up results at the moment?
They are the Premier League games. They are the 6 games we have. They're going to be all important, all final. But at the same time, I think all the clubs, all the teams that we are involved in Champions League spot, we are all going to win games and draw points until the end. I said already many times that when we win a game at this stage, you see yourself there and you are happy. And when you don't win a game, you can, be a little bit sad or upset. but it's how you manage in this moment the emotion. We have been there, and we would like to be there at the end of the season.
And you spoke this week about the environment after the
Ooh, let's see what he has to say about the environment.
Switch game. Ahead of another home game, what's your message to the supporters, and what's your message to your own players about the tactical approach?
The message is always the same. Us, with our support, our fans, we are better team. We are stronger. Sometimes I completely understand that us as a team, we need to engage the fans, something that probably Sunday we were not able to do it, especially for that 20-25 minutes. So it's also on us to be good enough and to engage our fans, because we knew this season, we saw this season that when we were able to engage them, they support us in every game.
In fairness to Maresca, I think that's a good answer. He is taking a little bit of accountability there. He's talking about the fact that we need to engage the fans, but then he openly says that he can't change the style of football. So it's just hypocritical, isn't it? So although the answer is like it's a good answer, when he says other things, it totally whacks back any of the praise that you give him for speaking like that in the first place. So yeah.
Enzo, do you still have belief in your approach that it can entertain the fans, that it can be that style of football that they want to see?
If
Your style of football, do you still believe in it, that it's going to be the kind of style that they will enjoy?
First of all, 100%, and then also because I'm not able to do a different kind of style. So in case I'm not the one to do a different kind of style.
I mean, that is just... So to go from talking about the fact that it's basically his job and the team's job to engage the fans, he then speaks about the fact that he believes 100% that he's going to get everything to click, but he also admits that he's not able to do another style. This is the epitome of a man who is not qualified to coach at the highest level. This is just ridiculous. You don't have good enough players to play your style, but you play your style anyway, and then you wonder why you don't get the results. You then wonder why the environment, which you blame on us, which you create, isn't good enough. It's because of what we're watching. It's because of what you're saying. You're absolutely right, Rain. You have to adapt. If you don't adapt, what are you? You're one-dimensional. You're easy. If you go on a night out and you try and pick up a girl and you use the same pickup line every single fucking time, at some point on the night, one of the girls is going to say to the other girls, did he use that same pickup line on you as well? Everyone fucking knows your game. You've got to change it up. You can't go on a night out wearing the same clothes every single time. You got to rock the reds, get the Hawaiian shirt in the summer, in the winter, maybe bring out the suit. Whatever it is, change it up. Change your hair, shave the beard, grow it back. What the fuck is this? There is no plan B. He's not able to do a plan B. And people still think he deserves time. He's good enough. He needs to be backed. Well, fucking hell. Doesn't look like he's going to be backed. And it doesn't look like he's good enough to play his system without being backed, which means they're both. All sides of the club are not there at all. They don't have a clue. They don't have a Scooby. Let's continue.
And can you just remind people, I mean, we've seen a lot of your teams when they're playing well and when they're struggling. Can you remind people of what are the tactics that you'll always keep the same, and what do you change a little bit maybe for the opposition or for the players you have?
Good question.
The only thing I can say is that I think the last 6 PL games at home, we face Southampton, Leicester, Wolves, West Ham, Spurs, and Ipswich. We won 5 or 6, and probably the one that the people more enjoy has been the Spurs one. But Spurs was the only team in the last 6 games at home that they were trying to press higher. So this is the reason why probably we attack more and we attack more quick. But against the rest, that they just wait inside the box, it's a different game. So we need to learn how to play different kind of games, and then we change tactically. We change game by game. We change even during the game. The last game against Ipswich, we start in one way first half, and then half time we change things. So we try always to give to the players the opportunity to win the game, create chances, and try to do the right things.
I actually think that's not even a bad answer again. I'll be honest. But he already says enough nonsense that everything else he says, you can't really take him seriously. But the answer is true. I mean, Spurs are the only team that came out pressing. And when you're against a team that press a little bit more, you have more space to operate in. But it doesn't defend the fact that the football is rubbish against low blocks. If you're telling me that we struggle against low blocks, that's basically what you're trying to say, then why not just change the system? And then when you're not playing against low blocks, when you are playing against low blocks, you'll be fine. It's pretty basic stuff.
Simon. Hey, Enzo. Why is the fans so important to you? I was looking at the
important. What the fuck are you on about?
Something you said, for example, Leicester last season. You actually said the day my idea is doubted, at the day after I will leave. Why is it so important to you? Because you even talk about it on social media. Do you think it can make the difference between Champions League football or not, the fans and the atmosphere?
Yeah, no, I think football belongs to the fans because they are the main part. And as a team, as a club, when your fans, they support you, I think it's important because, first of all, the players, they can receive that feeling, and it's important. Also, as I said, I think we need to be good enough to engage them. In the last game, unfortunately, for 25 minutes, I think we were not good enough to engage them. But the first 20 minutes and the second half, I think the team did enough to win the game. Also, because when you are 0-2 at home, with that moment, with that environment, it's more complicated to come back in the game, and we did that quite well. And the fans, I think, for me, they are important because they are the main part of any club in the world.
Obviously, you sort of sometimes you're getting a bit of abuse from the stand. There was actually some sort of shouts near where I was aimed towards you. Can you hear them? And does it sort of put you off at all? Does it upset you?
Me personally, no, because I was focused on the game. To be honest, I was just focused on the game. I try always to be focused on the game to see what is going on, to see if we need to change things, if everything is working well. So I try to be focused on the game.
And on a lighter note, with all this sort of pressure you're under to get Champions League football and deliver a first trophy for Chelsea under this ownership, how do you relax? Is there sort of like music that you listen to that particularly helps you? And what kind of music?
That's enough of this press conference. What music do you listen to? That journalist is not serious. What a load of rubbish. Do you want to know what song I would play to Enzo Maresca? How about that? That's what Maresca listens to. That's what he needs to listen to. He won't. But there you go. By the way, I agree with Neil saying that like they will get better with patience. I do agree. But better is 5th, maybe 6th next season if we finish lower. I spoke with Lewis, who's been very much behind this process, especially this season's manager. And he thinks that we should be challenging for the Premier League next season. You believe that? That's the patience. That's where the process is supposed to be. Don't look like we're getting anywhere close, does it? So that's the truth. Also, Arteta, great example. He's willing to change the way Arsenal play. Perfect example of why Maresca's not good enough. Maresca will not change the way he plays. Arteta will. They go to Man City, they park the bus. They go to Madrid, they counter-attack very well. They go against other teams, they got possession. This is a team that can do different things. They use set pieces. They don't always win pretty. They win ugly a lot. So when you talk about Arteta and use that as an example to back Maresca, I think it's actually got the opposite effect. Anyway, guys, we've got over 70 of you in here. Let's smash the like button. Let's get on to 70 likes on the video. I don't know how many likes we've got. Shall I quickly check it out? We have 26 likes. Come on, people, run up the likes. Smash that like button. Let's get straight up to 70 likes on the video. Come on, people. I stream every single day. Show some support. I appreciate it. Someone said Lewis is Chelsea's version of Ty. Where'd you get that from? I'd say he's like polar opposite of Ty. But fair enough. Oh, goodness gracious. Smash that like button, guys. And put your score predictions in the chat as well. We're on over 30 likes, guys. Over 50% of you are watching and you haven't smashed the thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Do appreciate all the support. Big up to everyone. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It helps a lot. Like the video. And I will be going to the game. We'll have some fan cams later on. We'll also have the podcast tomorrow. That will come up around some evening time. And then I will be doing a live show as well in the evening to review everything. Appreciate all your time, guys. We'll catch up very, very soon. All the best.